Hi, everybody. Today I have our student. She's here with us to share her experience with the remote rotation, forced remote rotations as with the coronavirus. So before we get started, how about you introduce yourself?
Hi everyone, my name's Ifoma. I'm I guess class of 2020, so kind of a new grad-ish, almost there. I just finished my pharmacy school at the University of Houston College of Pharmacy. I recently matched at Baylor St. Luke's Medical Center, so I'm really excited to start my PGY1 there. And I'm Anne's mentee, so it's a lot of a lot of exciting things.
Thank you. And I know that you're doing the remote rotations towards the last 2 weeks of your 6 weeks. And I think going forward, as their students are starting rotation, they're probably going to have some sort of remote capacity to it as well. So I would like to can you walk through what rotation was your last rotation and what happened and how did all carry out?
Sure. So my last rotation was at the VA. I had outpatient psych. Um, Thankfully, I had a rotation with a preceptor who's also faculty at U of H. So he's at U of H and he also precepts at the VA. And so we were able to kind of bounce around between the two sites. Primarily, we were at the VA 'cause primarily that's where his practice site is. And so we did a lot of patient interaction, saw a lot of patients, um, topic discussions, that sort of things all generally happen at the VA. However, when the pandemic really started to um, hinder our access to the VA, we kind of switched over to primarily going to the U of H campus. And so thankfully the VA has already had like a telehealth system in place. However, up until that point, we didn't really use it. So I guess the first couple of days of us transitioning to primarily being at the U of H campus was just kind of a lot of troubleshooting just to figure out in terms of like HIPAA, like how much, um, I guess how to first how to work the telehealth system and then how to even access the patients because with us being on U of H campus, technically we're not using the VA server. And so there's kind of like that little hoops that we had to get through. But thankfully like that maybe like the first 2 or 3 days of the transition process until all that got resolved. As far as like post all of that troubleshooting, I would say it was pretty smooth. Our patients, thankfully, a lot of the patients we were seeing at that point, it was just follow up. So we already had that initial in-person interaction. And so we're just following up with them, seeing how their medications were working, kind of assessing side effects and that kind of thing. As far as like topic discussions, we're still able to do that. Um, Little things like that. As far as maybe some like lesson learned and lessons that I've learned and kind of tips that kind of helped me through this was definitely first thing was just being having open communication with your preceptor. And I think since that was like we're already 4 weeks in and it's just 2 remaining weeks of the 6 week process, I already felt pretty comfortable with my preceptor. And again, I've had him in class. So I already felt very comfortable and we talked about everything although first week we had like a schedule and a syllabus that was kind of set in stone. It was once the coronavirus happened, all that went out the window, and we're just kind of taking things day by day, figuring things out. And I really appreciated his openness to me. Like he was like, I don't know how we're gonna finish this, but we're gonna work together and figure out a plan. Tell me what you're comfortable doing. What can you do at home? What can we, how often do you feel comfortable coming to campus? That kind of thing. So definitely, I appreciated having that open communication. I think that definitely helped make the whole like because it's stressful for everyone. So I think that really helped really break down that initial barrier. I'll say another tip or what kind of help kind of goes along with the open communication is definitely being flexible. Um, like I said, although we have schedules and I kind of like to stick to schedules and kind of know what's to be expected of me. But with everything going on, like being flexible, just knowing that he's gonna do his best to make sure I meet any objectives and make sure I get the required assignments done and being communicative. And I think that was definitely another thing that helped on both ends, just knowing that we're just gonna try and make it through. Thankfully it was only 2 more weeks So it wasn't too
True.
many more assignments or too many other like loose ends that needed to be tied. I think the last thing would definitely it all kind of goes together. It's just not stressing, just knowing that he's going to make sure everything gets done. Like he's not gonna not have me graduate or not have me finish anything. So I think just knowing that and being comfortable with I guess with the process really helped take away any additional stress because like I said, the pandemic is stressful for everyone. Everyone's worried about their family. Everyone's worried about, especially this was around the time when I think toilet paper was,
On a shortage,
massive
on demand.
massive shortages and water and everything like that. So I think not having to really put a lot of stress towards finishing up definitely helped with just like mental health and everything like that.
And you're on a mental health rotation. I know it's an elective rotation. So like, what is that stress feel look like when you're in clinic and then you have to go to telehealth? Like, how did you communicate with the patient? And it is telehealth. So how would patient at home, or are they at home calling you, or are they going to the clinic and call you? Like, what is that? So for those out there, just so they kind of give a reference point.
Sure. And just in reference to your, like the first part of your question in terms of the mental health aspect of this, I thought it was pretty interesting to see how this was affecting everyone. Like from obviously like from the healthcare perspective, we have our own we have our stress, maybe like a personal stress with our family and everything. And then just transitioning that whole transition process, not knowing exactly how it was going to work out to begin with, that was some stress as well. And then actually seeing it reflected in the patients was kind of interesting in terms of, we do like our little screenings. We have like a PHQ-9, a very simple clinician patient-based depression screening, and seeing those changes in that and the anxiety scales, those changes in that compared to their last visit, and them a lot of them having the same kind of related generalized stress in terms of the coronavirus. And I remember one patient who was displaying some OCD type behaviors where it's very obsessive and compulsive and rituals, and then seeing how it got amplified with the coronavirus in terms of running out of Clorox wipes and how he can't complete his rituals. I just thought that was very, very interesting because it's like real time kind of response. Um, in terms of telehealth, so it's pretty much kind of like a web-based system where you're able to generally see and talk to patients. It's funny because like our first one or two appointments, we had our webcam. So we had a VA issued webcam that we're supposed to attach on top of the actual computer, which didn't work. We didn't have time to actually, of course it didn't work. And so we're just trying to figure out how to use the, like U of H's, the computer given by U of H, how to set that webcam up in terms of their telehealth system. Again, it was like a VA operated webcam based system. Like it's not just like, it's not the WebEx, or it's not Zoom or anything like
Zoom.
that. Exactly. And so, it's a lot of communications with like a remote IT person to try and troubleshoot from afar. Like again, so with that being down for like our first two appointments, it was a lot primarily just on the phone. And so even with that, it was kind of funny because again, we're so used to calling our patients on a VA operated phone, so they get a VA number. And so having to call from a U of H number and then not necessarily initially picking up because they just weren't recognizing the number. And so it was kind of funny little hoops until we got all
Troubleshoot.
established. But
And then, so patient were expecting your call, and then eventually you guys transitioned to like a web video type of secure HIPAA remote type of work.
exactly.
That,
Exactly. And for
okay.
the most part, they were at home. Like you could see them, which was kind of interesting in itself, because usually we do like one-on-one or one-on-one patient follow-ups. And so I remember there was this one patient where his wife was in the room, and so we were asking him like, "Oh, do you feel like your appetite has changed in the last time we saw you?" And he was like, "Oh, no, no, I'm still eating about the same." And his wife's like, "Oh no, he eats a lot more and this and that." And so we're really able to really get the full picture of how their home life is in kind of a unique situation.
So since you did a mental health rotations, what are 2 tips that you have for people watching this as a student or just overall, or some mental health tips for folks to cope with stress and anxiety?
I think it's funny because I know the VA also had a kind of a related webinar that I actually got to listen to. And I thought some of the tips that they shared was very helpful in the sense that one of them was try not to get like information overloaded. I know it's obviously important for, just from a healthcare perspective, all the students, or just, just on a personal level to stay up to date with everything that's going on, especially with the information being so fast and rapidly changing. But I think that it's very easy to just get overloaded. Like if we were to start listening to the news from like the moment we wake up and then we listen to it throughout the day and then we listen to it like all the way till we go to sleep, it gets very, very overwhelming. So I think if you're just trying to stay up to date, I think just listen towards the end of the day, maybe like an hour or two, just get all the information, all the new information, and then try and go to sleep. And then tomorrow, like the next day, just try and have a normal routine, for a student, um, you know, log into class, go to your lectures, take notes, study, and then after a certain, take lunch, maybe de-stress for an hour, and then listen to the news and just kind of try to have a schedule in that sense and try not to get too overloaded with everything. Um, Also kind of related to that is try to use good sources of information. I know that there's just so many things, so much information everywhere. Like your aunt, sister, cousin has this cure that she wants you to use. But I think just try, especially from a healthcare perspective, trying to stay up to date with current, good, reliable sources, CDC, that sort of level of information is always good, just so that we can also share that information with, with our patients if we're still working, with our family members, try and debunk some of those home remedies that we may be hearing about, which is always around this time that this kind of thing comes up.
Right, or late night show of, all these cures that supposedly out there on late night show, $99 special, and I'm like, where are these coming from? So I think it's very important from a healthcare professional that you know the source of truth, and we may assume it's, simple, right, like easy information, like these are common sense, but I mean, folks out there may not know, and they will go to source that may not be right and potentially can be very lethal. Like I read a thing where someone got admitted to the ED because they were mixing ammonia and bleach, and that actually causes a very fatal incident that it ended up in the ED. So those types of, incidents do happen from the assumption. And I agree with you regarding making sure, I think it's a lot of information. It's a good effort to stay up to date, but I wholeheartedly agree with you, just really parcel out 1 hour, 2 hours, and look up all information all at once, and then just decompress and do other things outside of Corona. Like when you talk, maybe you have a 3 hour zone or a 2 hour zone of no Corona talk, like anything else but Corona talk. So
Yes.
I think I had a student who reached out to me say, I'm so overwhelmed, what should I do? And I told her, that actually less is more in the situation. And so really take a step back, finding joy in other hobbies that you enjoy that bring you happiness, like go for a walk, go exercise, go do a jog, go biking, go meditate, do a deep breathing exercise for 5 minutes, just anything that would just take your mind away from all the news source and information that existed out there. So that is such a good point. I think I'm just gonna last questions before we close up. So in terms of remote learning, I know you're on rotation. So what resources you use for remote learning, and what is the one strategy that you use to help you with remote learning that you find beneficial?
Well,
Resource tips. You mentioned like set a schedule or create a schedule, right? Like students are very structure driven, so that was a really good one.
well, so I'm more on like studying for, I guess it still works. I'm more on like studying for NAPEX now. So I'm not really like, I don't have lectures or anything that I'm like remotely like logging into. but definitely just like self-studying in terms of, I guess, amidst a coronavirus, a pandemic where you have to stay at home has been kind of a challenge for me. So definitely just setting a schedule, trying to keep to that schedule and amidst all the other craziness that's happening, like trying to like turn off the TV, studying. I'm trying to study away from a TV or kind of a news outlet. I try to only keep my tabs related to like my work, like lexicon, that kind of thing. No additional extra tabs.
No social media.
No social media because that is a trap. That is such a trap. No Netflix.
On
Yeah. So
Netflix, yes.
just and then I say setting a schedule, which helps for me, but also sharing that schedule with my family because we're all home. And so trying to, stick to a schedule so that they're not, trying to hang out after, like within my work day, and not trying to distract me too much because it was so easy before, like staying at home, I could just leave and then come back after I'm done studying for the day and then just hang out and be, have fun, distress. But having to do all that in one house, like where I have my structured work day and then my, I guess, less kind of structured de-stressing time, it's kind of, I'm trying to adapt to that still.
Understandable. I saw something on a media post, but I do this for myself because I also try to put structured time for me to work because I have a little one who's 1 year old soon, and of course my husband is like, "Oh, you're home, you can't feed him." Like, no, no, no. Like, I actually gotta get things done. So I put a sign out there: "Don't call me unless the house on fire." Type of,
Do not
you know.
disturb.
I think it's really great that you actually have a schedule so folks know what your schedule is. Not like, oh, hey, let's go watch some Netflix. Like, no, that's my study time. I gotta stick to it. So that's pretty awesome. Well, I hope that's been helpful for those that are listening into our conversations. For more awesome videos, make sure you hit the like button as well as subscribe and the bell button for awesome videos coming up. Well, thank you, and we'll do our next video soon.